Tuesday, and this is Trekland HQ, and we're live. Star Trek Collision Week. It's about retcons, not race. Today on episode 256 of Trekland Tuesdays Live, with me, Dr. Trek Larry Nemecek, coming at you right here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 for some clarity, sanity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. Hey, welcome everybody. I take it that we're live. I hope that we're live. I'm waiting for the chat to come in. We are here, right, guys? There we are. Okay. Threw me for a second. Everything else is clicking along here. I hope we're looking good. I'm so glad you all are with us today. If you're a veteran, if you're a TTLer, you know what to do. Make yourself known in the chat. Everybody's popping in to say hi. I won't jump into the chat at first because I'll be talking about maybe 1.5 topics today on the old soapbox, and then we'll take a midway break and be right back with, yes, actual Parrot Analytics ratings today, and then full bore into the chat. And if you're new to us, that's how a show works here on Trekland Tuesdays Live. But feel free to sound off all the time. I just won't get into it. Remember that if you're on Facebook, you'll only see Facebook. If you're on YouTube and Twitch, you'll see all the platforms, okay? And again, if you're on Twitch, kids, I'm not going back and forth. I'm not ignoring you. We'll get to the chat when I get to the chat, which is the way I do things here, because I want to get a point across. And it's an interesting point this week. I saw a lot of things merging together. Glad to have everybody with us. I saw a lot of things merging together, and here in Trekland, which, by the way, is the home of information about yes, the West Coast Away mission. A year from July 2023. If you actually want to take that QR code, you can, or you can go to geeknationtours.com and check that out. It's our big 10-day tour with LA and San Francisco location filming sites. I'm about to do some location filming sites, some Trekland trekking of my own with the Voyager documentary people that were high donors to the documentary. And that's going to be interesting to kind of get revved up. I've got a trek this Friday, though, of our day tours that we also have, because this August is a special event that I tried to do last year. It's August 2024. It's the end of Gene's centennial year. It's a 2-day Great Bird Origins tour. We're going to go around to LA to all the places that made Gene Roddenberry, that made Star Trek what it was in the beginning. We've come a long way since the original series. I know, but Star Trek started somewhere. And that's the weekend, just by happenstance, before Vegas. If you're headed to Trek Vegas, Geek Nation Tours and I are also having the one-day, once again, Valley of Fire Kirk Memorial Tour, with what you'd expect to find, the filming sites, and also some fun surprises. That's a Geek Nation Tour. So I'll remind you about that at the end. But things are opening up slowly, although I keep having folks that I hear from getting COVID. So as we say at the end, do all the things, folks. Do what's right for you. Stay healthy. If you're vaxxed, hopefully if you do get it, it will be some kind of a cold, unless you're asymptomatic even. But it's still out there. Just to say, even as we make all these plans to open up, we can do it. We can be safe. I think people are, hopefully, in the sci-fi world and the Star Trek world, are getting good at that. One thing that is going to be with us forever, though, is the dynamic tension between the old and the new, between the evolving and the established. And boy, was that no more on display than 2 weeks ago. When people somehow were upset when, spoilers, Picard's mother was seen to have committed suicide through mental health issues, that rendered the scene in Where No One Has Gone Before, Picard seeing his elderly mother with the tea tray, somehow that was messing with the universe. When I saw the Picard scene the first time, I thought, oh my God. I tweeted about this. I said, this is the best relayering, not stirring up, not retconning, but adding in texture I was blown away by the retexturizing of Sarek as really an odd bird, even for the odd bird Vulcans. By the time we add in foster daughter Michael to stepson Cybok with two wives and a mate, at least, the Vulcan princess, Cybok's mother, and just the odd, and then him trying to improve his children's lives by manipulating everything about Vulcan Science Academy and their own lives, and it blew up in his face. But the retconning that Discovery actually did, the relayering of texture, adding in without disturbing the past for Sarek was amazing. But the Maman Picard, the Yvette Picard moment, to the point where, no, it's not blowing that up. Picard says, he talks about having tea, he imagines having tea with her, is an older lady, that she had a long life. It added so much weight and drama. It was to me, it blew me away because I wasn't seeing that coming. We'd been talking about Sarek and Michael, and you at least saw the arena, and then to lay that in. I did not see that coming at all. I wasn't even thinking about his elderly mother when we got the story point about her committing suicide. I figured there would be something, or that would have to be on me. That would be my headcanon retcon. But no, they laid it out in the show, and it was so much more poignant than my poor headcanon could ever hope to be. But that was 2 weeks ago. And now, when that arose in the discussion I got into on Twitter, someone was surprised and unaware of that moment in Where No One Has Gone Before for Picard and his elderly mother. Now that we know it was his dream image, his imagination. And we were talking about retconning that, throwing the word around loosely. And someone came back and said, oh, wait, that's not a retcon. That's a retcon? Explained the situation, and they tweeted back and said, well, it's not a retcon if it's not verbally canon, which meant we were back in the world of canon, means concepts but not visuals. So it's okay to thread Michael into the Sarek family, but touchscreens and long-distance holocoms in 2256 are just fine. Because we're telling a positive story, damn it. And the world needs Star Trek spirit. And who cares about... I know. But it exposed that people's minds go different places. So here I had someone saying, well, it's not a retcon because it wasn't verbally canon. And I was thinking, well, we don't even talk about this. It's handled just fine. It's not even an issue. Why drag up something that's not an issue? And it wasn't even a debate or argumentative. It was more an exploration. But I thought his line, it's not a retcon if it's not verbally canon, came back, of course, over the weekend, as a lot of the world is getting access to screeners if they're not absolute fan premiere audiences, or actually legit reviewers. And you will love this, that I've had my screeners for a couple of weeks for the first 5 episodes, and I haven't watched one yet. I wanted to sit down when I could have my elbow space, room to maneuver, have my pad, take time, stop and start as much as I want to. And I just haven't done it yet. I was going to last night. Monday nights are horrible. I'm planning on doing it tonight because I want to save Wednesday night for the Picard finale. By the way, Collision Week, wherever you're reading that, Collision Week is what we talked about last week. I could have called it Overlap Week, but I wanted to get your attention. Yes, it's my own version of clickbait. No, it's all the attention that the finale of Picard deserves up against all the attention that the series premiere of Strange New Worlds deserves. And I've had a lot of conversation about last week's topic this week about, I can handle, on the YouTube comments especially. I can handle 2 shows. I love having 2 shows. Having 2 series is amazing. Well, you probably didn't live during the DS9 Voyager days, which we kept up with it. Yeah. Well, some of us did. Some of us gave up and only went one way or the other. And a lot of people gave up and went home, period. For a lot of reasons. But I would not want to revisit that if we're in an era of trying to introduce Star Trek beyond our little tight bubble and get it out into the world. It's dividing the focus out there. But having said that, I don't know how you lose track totally when you've got Sir Patrick involved. And I don't know how you lose track if you're debuting any new Star Trek show, especially one where a guy shows up riding a horse at the beginning. That ought to grab the mainstream mundane's attention. And the Enterprise and la 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 and Star Trek and the people who lapse in. So yes, lots of people have screeners. A lot of people are on that. And non-spoiler factoids were allowed to be shared. So through one way or another, the review, the word got out. It was propagated down to the point where our own Robert April is in the pilot. I knew those opening words. Chris, I need you. I was so hoping that was April. But then it turns out that his name is Robert April, and he's black. He is African American, played by the incredible award-winning actor Adrian Holmes, who a lot of people will know from the Fresh Prince reboot that's on Peacock now. They also know him from Arrow. He played the police chief, Frank Pike. I kid you not. He's also, if you think about James Avery from the original French Prince, he's also the fact that now both Uncle Phils are in Star Trek. Okay, awesome. But no, that was all to the side because a lot of people were upset that Robert April was not played by a white actor, because the one time we've had Robert April depicted, he was a white actor or a white animated character. In the only time to mention him on screen and depict him on screen, I say depict him on screen, because we've had even more mentions of Robert April in years past. Discovery put him in the Saru studying the top captains of Starfleet history, and he is up there, along with Matt Decker and Georgiou and Kirk. No, not Kirk. Excuse me. It was pre-Kirk. Yes. Pike and April and Georgiou and Matt Decker already. He was white in the animated series, and that set off a lot of folks. Now, I think there was a secondary wave, had nothing to do with him as an actor, obviously. And from what we've seen of the screener advances, this is his only appearance so far, but hang on. And I know the first wave of reaction to this looked like pure deal racism. It smelled that way, especially outside the Star Trek world. So that was distressing. And I am sad to say, I'm sure there is at least a 2% layer, maybe even 5% layer where racism entered into it. Got dirty, nasty in some dark corners of the web and some social platforms. I'm sure that came up. That's sad, regrettable, and I don't know how we live in 2024 without it. But what I'm saying is I think most of the reaction to that was the fact that April had been white in the animated series. And this really isn't about April and Adrian Holmes and white-black casting. Now, I understand what's going on here. I haven't had time to interview anybody. And when they're trying to premiere the show and get it out to people, the last thing they want to do is talk about a one-off guest stars casting in view of the overall totality of the rest of the show that everybody apparently loves. I know they love it. I was expecting to love it months ago, hearing about the nuts and bolts of it, but now the world is finding out. In fact, it may be, as much as they all have their fine points, and we have all lived and died with them every week now for almost 5 years, Strange New Worlds may be the topper series. Without raising the bar too high for you guys, Strange New Worlds may be the series that eventually somebody says, oh yeah, and then they also did Discovery and Picard out of the gate. We'll see what happens. We'll see. Heaven forbid we stoke the expectation flames too high. We raise the bar too high. But this is one tiny part of Strange New Worlds. But, it blew up the interwebs over the weekend. And spoilers, if all of this is new to you and you didn't want to hear it, sorry. I don't know how you've avoided it if you had hashtag Star Trek in your feed anyway. Here's the thing. What it really does, this isn't about Adrian Holmes and Pike and casting and all that. This is really about the animated series. It's about the animated series and the reality of TV. And I don't mean that people hate the animated series, because that's not true. That the fact that the animated series has had this checkered past, we love it, we embrace it. But it's always been problematical. It's always, how rigid is your definition of canon, which I know there's the C word again. But it's true. And yes, there have been problematic, yes. We've had for everything from how do you depict antimatter explosions? What of Lazarus? It has to be identical matter? No. I mean, the science of many aspects of original series, much less things beyond. We've had boners and goofs and just bad conceptual ideas. I mean, I'm not even talking about mini skirts on away mission, on landing parties, but there you go. You can point to every series as having its moments. The animated series, in trying to accomplish so much and speed the evolution of Star Trek along in a desperate way, maybe akin to how Manny Coda was trying to cram so much into the fourth and known to be last season of Enterprise. Almost, I don't want to say desperation, but let's take this opportunity because we don't know when we'll get another one, which is what guided Dorothy and Jean on the animated series. At least the first season. She didn't do the second season. And Dorothy was not in charge when the second season, the short second season, was put together. And yes, counterclock incident, which gave us Captain April, Commodore April, and his wife, Dr. Sarah, who is said to be the first doctor on a ship with warp drive, which is problematical right there. I've retconned it a long time ago. The first Starship class. I saw another great retcon the other day. Someone said, no, it took a while before Starfleet offered Starfleet Medical, and she was in the first class of graduates from Starfleet Medical to go on it. So, you can parse that however. But what it really gets back to is not about this act on, it's really back to how people view the animated series. And it's not like some people hate it. And it's not, I love the animated. I want everything in the animated series to be embraced. But that can't happen. Now, you say, well, if 50-foot Spock can be embraced and Lower Decks makes it canon, well, you're going to find 20% of the world that says, well, Lower Decks isn't canon. So after I phaser them on stun 40 or 50 times, 47, we move on. This is just going to be a time. This is just going to be a time when those old Kirk adventures that were dramatized for public viewing, much like the Old West adventures of heroes of the Old West, where, the dime novels blew them up out of proportion. That's just going to be a time when we just say there was a glitch. Not a racist retelling in the 2330s, but it's just a glitch in transmitting. I mean, we've got Pink Kazinti, who are now back to being orange and tones of Earth cats. Which when they've been made, Lower Decks and beyond. So that's not the first time. We all know about this. I don't think we can chalk this up to the color blindness issue and all the goofy, the pink, the whole pink, not color blindness, but I love pink issues coming out of the original series, the animated series. Klingon uniforms, pink. This is really, in the meta world, about, I get it. I thought long ago, when we realized Strange New Worlds was going to be Pike's Enterprise, that, wow, compared to the trend in casting and trying to diversify the casts for that 2017 audience, that 2021 audience, the Cage, if you do it by canon, is pretty white. It's pretty default 1964 white. I mean, you finally got Lloyd Haynes being the comm officer in Where No Man. I mean, Nichelle didn't come along until the series. Sulu is in Where No Man. George is there. But you really didn't see that diversification really kick in out of the mindset. And it may have been battles that Gene fought. It may have just been trying to get the basic concept of the show out there. And with a second breath, then diversification became more of a thing. And a lot of the world changed between 1964 and even 1965, much less 1966. Social trends were on the rise, and so much was in the zeitgeist. I mean, the Civil Rights Act was passed in 64 and 65. So just as one small clue there. We're turning into the Trek files here. Sorry, guys. What I'm saying is that if the Cage primary cast, Kirk, Spock, and number one, we're all going to be presented intact the way they appeared in 64. And yes, I know Spock is Vulcan, but you know, then you can see where the diversity, rounding out the rest of the bridge cast, where they went. We have Latino characters. We have Black characters now, and they're pulling from canon. We have Mabenga. Now, not Boyce and not Piper, much less McCoy. But you know what? You know what we say? Texture, not trivia. That's cool. That's cool. That's fine. I've talked already about my questions about the medical department, about Chapel and Spock. Yeah, what's with them back and forth, and Spock and T'Pring, and is Spock and Chapel a thing? And most of all, how does Chapel and Roger Corby get mixed up in all this? Is Roger Corby now, from what we're seeing in the promos, her what's the number 2 guy? Her bounce back? I can't think of the term. You know what I mean? Was he there to catch her when she fell from Spock? And McCoy down the line, but McCoy says Mabenga interned in a Vulcan ward. What if he left Enterprise? We've talked about all this before here on Tuesdays Live. So yeah, texture, not trivia. We're already hip deep in that. But producing this show, producers found a way to round out the cast without really violating anything that we saw in the Cage. Let's just hope that we have a not alien Yohan Colt, if one even pops up. But I think it was too tempting to depict, once you make the decision to have Pike be addressed by his superior and called back to service, which is apparently what's happening from the promo at the beginning, why he's isolated in a snowy snowbank. I think it was too tempting to try to get back a little diversity in that main frame. And that's good. That's fine. That's wonderful. Who cares? We do have the April throwback. And I think at that point, love of the animated series did it. Look, this is a minor character. Here's one place we can colorize the spectrum here when we're dealing with these opening shots. Plus, here's the other thing. April is not just Pike's superior here. April is the first captain of the Enterprise. And that has been canonized. It's nothing else that's in the graphics that Pike throws up on the screen when he first comes aboard Discovery. It's very much canonized now. It's not just intentions of the writer and a cute little in-joke that was done in-house. Although that used to be enough to have anything happen. No, he's there. It's on Mike Sussman's bio screen for Archer, right? From Inner Mirror Darkly. But just what does that mean to have had a Black man be the first captain of the Enterprise? That's a whole new tangent there. And I think that was just too irresistible for the producers to do, knowing that the only thing holding them back is a few minutes in one of the animated episodes. Now, this is what I say. It brings it back to forget race, forget people. It just goes back to nobody respects the Spanish Inquisition. No, nobody respects the animated series. And that's not true. Everybody loves yesteryear. Everybody loves so many aspects. We love to point out that there was a holodeck, the rec deck, not the rec deck of the motion picture, although some of those platforms might have been holographic projectors. You don't know. But it's not just the rec deck of the animated series. Gene intended for there to be holographic viewers that the years and the budget just didn't get to. Read the making of Star Trek. He talks about the holo viewers to if nothing else, to ease homesickness back home. And that is why, way back in 1973-74, Franz Joseph Schnaubelt put little holocom viewers, small pods and larger ones, in his original Star Trek Enterprise blueprints. They're there because that was the intention. And if the show's never going to be made again, why not make it the way it was originally conceived? So we've been down this hole. This is just a combination of topics that have been out there. I was just amused and a little surprised and annoyed and a little eye-rolly about the fact that this all came up. And I totally get it. underlying all this, I totally get it that people are disappointed, that it feels like the animated series is being disrespected again, even as they not only have those feelings, but they have to deal with half of fandom that doesn't care about the animated series or just sees it as less than. But yes, we routinely have to go retcon. What of Lazarus? We have to retcon grinchy moments from throughout even the latest of shows. Or we madly retcon Orion's original series, Orion's Enterprise. And now we have Orion's, well, Kelvin movies don't count, they're fake. But now we've got Prime Orions on lower decks and yay Tendi. I mean, it's all a grand experiment in texture, not trivia. We now know that the image of Picard's mother is not only poignant that that's the image he goes to, but he goes to his false image because he secretly mourns for her still after her suicide. Now, as my tweet person last week said, it's not a retcon regarding, he could have said regarding April, it's not a retcon in casting because it wasn't verbally canon. It was just an image on the animated series. So it's in there. Given the trade-offs, given what I am sure was in the zeitgeist, what was in the mix for the decision to do this, have an award-winning actor, having the other Uncle Phil play April here, it doesn't surprise me. I'm ready now. My fallback position is just that, just like the original series is going to be the dramatized adventures of Kirk and Spock, as Kirk actually mentions in Gene's novelization, the motion picture. We can actually connect those dots if we need to, have to, must. In my mind, the animated series is, the shields have been extended around the animated series in that way as well. And by golly, if we need to chalk it up to a glitch in the original transmission, we can. Now, what I want to know is Commodore April actually married to a woman named Sarah? Or was he married to a woman named Sarah 15 years earlier? 15 years earlier? Yeah, 15 years earlier. Was he actually married to a woman named Sarah? Was she actually a doctor? Did she actually serve with him on his 5-year first launch of the Enterprise? Is all that going to survive? Now, if we reel into that, maybe the animated series canon huggers, canonistas, and I'm one of them, maybe we can all hang on to that and see the greater good. Now, I don't know how often April is going to reoccur. If you really want to get technical about it, the first time we saw a middle initial for April was in the early first draft, and it was Robert M. April. And I think that's gone away in favor of T. I'm edgy on that, but we'll see what happens. You can always put out another gravestone and change the middle initial. But the other thing that's intriguing now, which seems to be maybe a conscious choice, maybe it's another overlook. No matter who's playing him, they've made him an admiral. Not the Commodore that we got in Counterclock Incident. Is that going to be another piece of the animated series that's just swept away? Or is that part of texturizing, not trivializing? Is that going to be part of the April story? That he got bucked back down to Commodore? Maybe he had to go chase a cloud entity or something attacking Earth. And they did a temporary grade reduction. No, this is not over. It's going to happen more and more as we go along. Look, guys, someday, I mean, yes, it happens in originals in the animated series. I mentioned Pink Kazinti. Look, the Bonaventure has already been taken care of. My friend Aaron Harvey, he's really put time into this. After me, the months I knew what was happening in First Contact before it premiered, back in 95 and 96, I thought, okay, the Phoenix is a test warp ship. The Bonaventure was the first ship fully launched and built with warp drive. So, whew, okay, we got that. Now, the fact that the Bonaventure looks like a wacky design, okay. But I've carried the Bonaventure around in my head just fine alongside the Phoenix. It's been fine. And that's kind of where Aaron went, and especially if you read his animated series book. But we've been through all this before. We've taken care of a lot of these things. We'll keep doing it. I got the transmission glitch caveat there for any time now. I need something in the original series, like the basic look and shape of the Enterprise, to be dumbed down or simplified for a more young adult audience, maybe. Hey, and if you think that's cringeworthy, you think that whole approach is not going to work, look, hopefully someday, I don't know, 50 or 60 years from now, 100 years from now, I mean, if we don't stagnate by literally going back to Surf City, USA, SERF USA, that's a nod to what's going on this week in the news. If we don't totally go so far backwards, we lose our ability to think in advanced progressive science ways and think outside the box. Hopefully, we will still find a way to keep advancing on all fronts. And when we do, and we finally do develop a hyperlight drive, call it warp drive or whatever, I have this feeling that someday when we have real warp drive, it won't involve antimatter. And it won't involve dilithium, because dilithium was never found and discovered on Ganymede or Io or whatever you think the fifth moon of Jupiter is. I have this feeling we actually are finally flying faster than light that'll have nothing to look like our old Star Trek mantra that's taken 40 years to be evolved on its own and smoothed out. It'll be 100 times more than getting to 1997 and figuring out you never even heard of the eugenics wars. That just happened. 37 million people were killed, and I didn't hear about it. How did that happen in our usual menu of bad news every night? So, yeah. Much less did you catch the launch of Nomad in 2002? You didn't? Okay. And those are all live action references. So, we do it. We retcon how we can. What's ironic, though, in all of this is, since Enterprise, I've wanted an April series. Why have the guy in the middle that we've already seen? Go back where we've not explored anything. Have the development, the R&D, and the launch of the original clunky Constitution class, the Connie, gooseneck viewers and everything, and have April and Dr. Sarah and another cast from 2245 there. That's what I want. I thought that would be more exciting than, we're all in love with Anson at all. So it's fine. But 20 years ago, not my head canon, my head wishing was wanting an April series then. We can still do it. We can also still do the Romulan War in canon and the founding of the Federation in canon, rather than having all these versions floating around. That's just me. I'm still in shock that we got Enterprise. We got a pre-Federation series, and half of fandom bitched about it. So I don't know. I just think these last couple of weeks have been amazing. I think it's amazing that we've got a series finale for Picard and an opening shot here for Strange New Worlds. The Strange New Worlds may yet blow everybody away. I totally understand people raising and notating the fact that there's been a difference in change in the conception of April. To me, it's more about the animated series than April. But it's nothing new. But this really speaks to, or the people that look at the animated series are, it's canon or it's not. Pardon my language, a black and white decision, a binary decision. It's all one way or all the other. And it's like all the rest of Star Trek. It's mostly there. Star Trek is amazing. That's why Star Trek, to me, is the most fantastic of all the franchises. And I didn't grow up thinking of it that way. I just love Star Trek. It took me the last 20 years of figuring out that all these people like comic books, people running around in capes. Those aren't uniforms. Superpowers, there's nothing scientific in that. Don't talk to me about spider radioactive blood. A wacky science in every little one-off. And I guess maybe the people that tie the Marvel universe together are as amazing as the people that try to make sense of Star Trek star layout. Okay, fine. Everybody, I'm an idic. I'm an idic person. Everybody gets to have their thing. I'm just saying that there are glitches along the way. The animated series just wound up. The animated series tried to push the envelope in so many ways. It was so feeling its desperation. As is it going to be the first of more, or is it going to be the last? But whatever happened, Dorothy and Jean were really reaching for the stars. And not everything got predicted correctly. Not everything went along. And by the animated series being out of eyesight for so many years, and Gene himself declaring it problematical, Larry Niven's Kazinti, for one thing, which now is fine, but at the time, and the rights and issues and the changing face of the way animation is even viewed in 1973, it was hard enough. The world thought of animation as Saturday, unless you were a Disney shareholder, maybe. The world thought of animation as a Saturday morning kiddie show. Dorothy and Jean's main mission, their primary mission, was to just get the attitude of the level of respect and care put into Star Trek above Lassie's Rescue Rangers and the Brady Kids. There was more care put into Scooby-Doo than some of these other shows, especially if they were a licensee fluff off. So that's where we are. Obviously, Lower Decks and Prodigy are made in a world that knows very much the power of anime and respect for animation, and specifically anime, and in a world of animation that's burgeoning even beyond just simple anime. Yeah, and not just because there's 1,000,001 cable and streaming channels to host it. So it's a big ball. It's a big mix of issues. But the reaction to the news about April was a sliver of the overall picture of Strange New Worlds. The reaction on the extreme end might have been about race, but the biggest reaction of all that was not about race. It was people hurt about disrespecting TAS, which again, I think is an impossible dream. It's already had to be retconned and fitted in. This is just one more. Was it a necessary choice? Was it a necessary move? Well, no. You could have called Cochrane's ship the Bonaventure. You could have just done that right there. But his test ship wasn't going to look the way the Bonaventure was depicted. I mean, was the whole thing about adding on an alternate universe in the Kelvin movies necessary? I think they did much less damage to the Prime universe. I'm fine for that stub to go now. Whether that stub keeps growing into a branch or it just dead ends out there after 6 hours, it's fine. It's fine. It existed. Something wacky like what happened on Discovery may come around, just in that desire to explain Klingon forehead smooth heads. Or in this case, explain the branch of the stubby Kelvin universe there, but and Spock's involvement and his fate and all of that kind of thing. But, which is laying ahead of our young Spock. Oh, talk about Pike and his delusions. But the main thing here is Star Trek, more than any other franchise, has not rebooted every 2 years, has not recast 5 times, even though now, as I said once, I'm admiring Marvel for now embracing their reboots with the Spider-Man last outing. So it's pop culture, it's entertainment, but I just want people to, even as we say, it's okay to recast. It's okay to reconfigure that. And some people say, what, are you going to throw everything out? Well, no, obviously not. We've got for our earliest efforts for the original series and animated series, we've got a wonky umbrella for it now. So that's where my mind has got to be to stay sane. Otherwise, I would have jumped off a cliff a long time ago and been called a crazy, anal, unchanging fan. And as I fell off the cliff, I'd be screaming, but that's what Star Trek is. That's what Star Trek is. Are relics, tribulations, and Innermare Darkly a lie also? Ooh, okay. We won't go there today. But I just want to say, I acknowledge that. We saw that. I think it's died down now because it is just a tiny part of the celebration of this new series that I think is going to blow everybody's socks off. Not to put the bar too high, but from some of the things I'm starting to hear, I think and they're shooting. They're nearing the end of the second season shooting now. Discovery is into its fifth already. So if we get COVID out of the way and things can get back to a normal, where we only have a year and a half between writing, filming, and airing, which is insane, but that's the world as well. Okay. I've been on this soapbox for a long time. There were a lot of threads that had to be pulled together into a ball here. So I can't wait to see what everybody's saying in the chat. I will get back to you. But this is why if I stopped and started, we'd never get anything done today. And a lot of people would say we didn't anyway. But I'm going to take a breather here and just thank everybody. First off, I'll let you all germinate. I'll let you all chat up what's going on there while I thank our Patreon folks, our TTLers. Yes. Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel, Keith Rombach, Justin Porteous, Nathaniel Robinson, and Blaze K. And our live wires, Rusty Harrell, Albert Gunn Johnson, Robert McLean, Alan Hoensi, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, Dave Gregory, Gay Clevin Lundstrom. I'm going to get it. I'm going to say it quickly one of these weeks, Gay. And Casey Shafsky. Thank you all for being in on my Patreon and help us stream a little easier every month. It's just a $5 and $10 leveled Patreon. I'm still overdue to get the $10 folks out there, other reward. But hey, I want to mention and thank everybody every week and give access to some of our older Portal 47 interviews from 6-7 years ago. It's patreon.com/Trekland Live. It's very simple compared to a lot of the complex Patreons. And I don't live by there because I have other business things happening. But I wanted to offer that for the folks who like and enjoy and appreciate Patreon. As we say, though, if you really want to jump in on Portal 47 for just a few bucks more. Something that is a few bucks less, as in zero, is my podcast for Roddenberry, The Trek Files. Every Tuesday, it's there at midnight Pacific. And this week, speaking of everything we've just been speaking about, fan anxieties and expectations about how future Star Treks will be unrolled, conceived, spun out. We have a letter this week from 1978 from a fan, not a kid, a 31-year-old nurse writing not to Gene or anybody involved with the motion picture, but to Michael Eisner, who, yes, before Disney was at Paramount, and a great discussion with my good buddy John Champion. I love finding things from 1978 that feel exactly like they're from today. So check it out if you can. It's at podcast.roddenberry.com, or if you want the documents, come over to our main page on Facebook at The Trek Files. It's pretty easy to find it. Otherwise, hey, as you see, if you're on YouTube with me now or later, and if you're watching later, you should try to join us live and get in on the chat when you can. But glad you're here in any case. Like and subscribe if you can. Larry Nemechek's Trekland. It's the same thing on Instagram and Facebook. It's Larry Nemechek on Twitter. And like I said, Portal 47's at portal47.net. That's going to be it for today, if you're watching us later. But hang on, live folks. I'm not going anywhere. We'll take a break. I'll be right back. We will look at the parrots and get into this chat. I hope I stirred some stuff up. But for now, please, got a call from a good friend of mine yesterday that he had the Rona, and was trying to retrace where. Just got a little lazy, and had a severe, like, sinus infection type reaction. So not asymptomatic. The thing about COVID is I'm just worried about long COVID and what pops up in 10 or 15 years. So yeah, I'm staying healthy. I'm doing all the things. I hope you do too. And more than ever, I got sucked into this on Twitter. Stay woke, I say. Check the sources. I started to answer back in the heat of last night's decision in the news. I answered back a tweet person very sarcastically, tweeted, and then I realized, looked at their profile, I checked the source and realized I was talking to a ghost with their 3 followers and 0 followers and 3 posts. I don't know. So yeah, stay woke, check the sources, and trek well. everybody. All right. Let's hit the parrots. Guess what? I'd been debating whether the Parrot Analytics, the company out of New Zealand that we've been watching now since 2017, they're at least a couple years older than that. They came up with a metric to try to get a handle on measuring all these digital shows that don't need Nielsen's because they don't have ad rates and they don't need commercials and they don't need to publish public numbers, even though they might be slightly flawed here and there. Nobody cares because the digital shows on these streaming networks keep the numbers to themselves unless they decide to brag a little. So the parrots have an average demand expression metric that they use. Basically, they're scouring the internet and they get terrestrial numbers if they can. But they're looking, basically, it's a glorified version of buzz, whether it's fans or critics or the studio promotion machines. And it's relatively, you would think, they measure everything. They do everything. They do digital originals first, and that's what we've been watching because they've skipped a couple of weeks, and I keep wondering if they're not doing this anymore, the weekly reports that are public at their place, parrotanalytics.com/insights. But no, they're back. They made up for the last 2 weeks, have popped up in the last couple of days. This week, yes, Picard is still in the top 10 for the United States for the last week, ended Saturday. Picard's in number 6. And the way they do this is they measure these average demand expressions weekly, and they measure it against what their average show is across the however many hundred series there are now. Star Trek has always been, at least in their exceptional top 2.5%. I'm sorry, outstanding, if sometimes even in the exceptional. Picard's there. Picard is more popular, is as popular than 29.4 times an average show. It's number 6. Number 1, Stranger Things at 52. Our Flag Means Death, which has come out of nowhere to be really, really popular. Then Bridgerton, Moon Knight, Mandalorian at 33.9. And then a drop to Picard, 29.4. Then The Witcher, Tokyo Vice, Titans, and Young Justice, number 10, at 24 times more popular than the average show. Now, just to look, I looked last week. Picard was still number 6 also, now that we can see it. It was at 29.8. So it dropped a little bit on its actual number this week. It dropped 0.4 of a factor, but it's still in 6th place. Overall this week, the overall shows, everybody's SpongeBob number 1, 71 and change. Then Saturday Night Live, Stranger Things, the only digital in the top 10. Then Better Call Saul, which is winding up, Breaking Bad, Attack on Titan, Game of Thrones, Simpsons, Walking Dead, and Outlander. So I was curious to see, it's not showing up in the top 10, obviously, because it hasn't aired. But there's been a lot of buzz for Strange New Worlds. A lot of talk, and I was curious to see how that was reflecting in the parrots. So as a trend, we don't have a week to week, right? But as a trend line, if you think that Picard this week had a 29.4 times more popular than the average bear show. Sorry, I got to do it. It's Picard's trend line now at 34. It's ahead of its 30 days. Picard is climbing to its finale. Its 30-day trend line average was 30.6. So shifting to 30 days. Strange New Worlds 30-day trend line is 6.6 for a show that has not aired yet. That's still in the good. It's still in the good category. It is still better. It ranks at the 85.6 percentile of all action adventures. So it's ranking higher than 85% of all the other action adventure shows. Its trend line over 60 days is doing this. Yeah, and the last 30 days, its demand on, as Parrot measures it, is up 91%, 91.4. So it's in there. At the same time, Discovery is hanging in at 23.0 compared to Picard's 30-day at 30.6. So 30-day trends. And Discovery is dipping down, right? You would expect that as the heat of their fresh shows has gone away. But it is still more popular than 99.7% of all dramas of any stripe, sci-fi or not, which is kind of crazy. crazy. So all the Star Treks, or at least Strange New Worlds hasn't debuted, but every Star Trek stays in that upper 2.5% of shows as far as the way Parrott measured it. The buzz. Who'da thunk it? So good for Picard for staying in the top 10. Discovery really hasn't made it in the top 10 since the first couple of years. So take that for what you will. And I will take our chat. I'm backtracking now. Boy, I stirred up so much. We're going to see what's going on. Let's see how we're doing here. Thank you, Anne-Marie. GeekNationTours.com. Thanks for busting up that. Hello, Exponents 2046. Hello, is this your first time with us, or are you cleverly crossing over from a Facebook account? Anyway, glad to have you with us. Hello, Paul. Have you been with us before? Anyway, I like to say shout outs to folks who are joining us for the first time, or maybe first time in a long time. So yay. Good to see you. Hey, David, hope you're feeling better and glad you could make it. Are you still at home? We see. Can't wait to see those Voidoc. I know. It's now that's easier to say than Vergerdoc. So, if we're going to do that. Hello. Hi, Sophia. Hope things are good in Portugal. Hello, Susan. Yay, everybody. Hi, Jerry. What are you saying here? It's interesting regarding this dust up over the April casting, which I think is great, that Nichelle and George both voiced guest characters in the animated series that were different from their own race. And see, I didn't mention this, Jerry. This is such a non sequitur to me. It's voices. I don't know. Maybe that's my thing. They're talking about casting a black actor as something depicted as white. The voice in animation is totally irrelevant to me. I saw people saying that. Well, Nichelle voiced Dr. Sarah, his wife. That's a non sequitur to me because this is all about visual depiction. And if we're going to branch off into the third dimension and go into audio, I don't know. I don't know. I think plenty of black voice actors in the sound booth ADR'd for mob scenes of humans that might have been all white and maybe, or black. I'm not even going to go. But that was a revelation to me when I saw this issue even come up. So it's a non sequitur to me. And maybe that has upset some people. Maybe people think that is an issue. And if they do, I'm happy to listen. But just as far as this thing about, are we going to keep canon or not? It's a non-canon issue to me. We're talking about audio, not visual. And the whole point of this was about visuals, just as much as touchscreens and long-distance holocoms. Yeah, now the fact that I'd forgotten this, but yeah, the fact that Jimmy, we cut you off there, but the fact that Jimmy was the voice of Ensign Dawson Walking Bear, which my friend Russell, the late great Russell Bates, is Kiowa Comanche character in How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth. Yeah, there you go. Your best friend just got COVID and he's been taking every precaution. Please stay careful. Yes, absolutely. Oh, hi, Top Chat Rose. Hope you're fine too. Yes. See, a lot of you were at the premiere. I just did 2 cons. I have the screeners. I wasn't going to go to New York for the premiere. But it was awesome to see the New Yorkers not feel left out. Although we've all felt left out. I was surprised there wasn't an online component, but we will see. They put all that money that they've been spending on swag and put it into the live event, which is why maybe the swag boxes happen. Howdy, Dave. Good to see you. Aha. John, you say, you think it makes sense since the Traveler was bringing out thought, emotions, daydreams, and such. Picard might have thought of his mother in an idealized way, an old French woman. Yeah, John, I took it as that was his defense, The whole point of this second season of Picard was digging down into something within him. I'm trying to remember what the actuality of it was. It was what this has to do with Q and Renee Picard and Q's own health and all of that. Spoilers, everybody not watching season 2. But the fact that the root, the core of at least some of this impetus, or the way that Q dug at Picard, was the way he had buried the truth about his mother because it was too painful as a kid and he just had no need to go back there. And so the fact that the Traveler, if it was it the Traveler, was it the, yeah, whatever it was, the fact that that was his choice, right? It's kind of like on the Shore Leave Planet. What is in your brain that comes to mind? Is it the last thing that you were thinking about? Is it something else? I mean, Kirk wound down with Finnegan and Ruth, but other people, it was just what was in their brain popping in. It's that same kind of thing. And it's interesting that not only did his mind go to his mother, but he went to his go-to image of his mother and not down to this deep, dark core, which is, again, interesting. Even under the duress, even under that kind of external manipulation, he went to his. That's what I mean about it was a whoa. It just added so much more strength and depth to that moment 30 years ago. There's nothing wrong with that. That's awesome. That's an awesome thing. I was dumbstruck, gobsmacked as that scrolled by on my big screen. I thought, whoa. Wacky Daddy Sarek, you are now at number 2. Although the Sarek web of ripple effects is much bigger than Picard and his mother. Or was it? Also, the people that were upset about Robert when Robert was said to be away at school. I mean, that's fine. That's fine. Where was Cybok all this time? And don't think he went away in Star Trek V. He spun out on his little raider, just like Darth Vader. Dave, thank you for keeping the natives not restless on Twitch. Thank you very much. Yes, as I just took 5 minutes to say. Yes, indeed. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, John, he'll be to Pike as Forrest was to Archer if they have him back. I have not seen how he returns. And again, I would love for him to say something about Sarah this and Sarah that, and just work into that a little bit. Well, see, Tobias, this is what I'm saying. People who are objecting to this, I truly believe 98% of them, 99% of them are not being just racist because they don't want to see more black actors working on their screen. I think it's just disappointment that one more carvation that didn't have to be out of animated series is there. And it didn't have to be is all in how you look at it. So not a major character, not a running character, not a character with didn't pop up in the Kelvin movies and was cast a certain way. Not that that's going to restrain some things. But that's it. It's just it gets us back to our heart in the animated series and where we are with it and where we are with it as the years go by. And for all that it gave us and yielded for us, I'm looking at you yesteryear, and the moments that we love to point to. We love to point to Uhura in the command chair, right? Those kind of moments that come up later, we love to have those to look at and talk about Star Trek bringing the devil to 8-year-old kids on Saturday morning and the magics of Megas too. Some of those wacky kind of things. True. Good point. Good point, Michael. Save that. File that away for the day that we need it. Oh, really? Why was Captain Smith not in Saru's screen back then? We'll hear about Captain Smith from the halfway between Kirk and halfway between Archer and April now. Captain Smith, right, from the 2220s, will be a big hero, and we'll wonder why Saru never heard of it. He was on the second screen. Well, obviously, Keith, you hate the animated series. just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, see, I don't think this is fair, John. I don't think this is fair. There are too many Trekkies that feel too much. And I don't blame them for that. But once the wave passes, once your emotion passes, the ship has sailed. Film is film. You got to go with it unless something ridiculous happens. And the more we go along with, and this isn't right out of the box. This is the third. I've got one more comment to make, but I'm going to save it for next week. I got to do some research into my own archives. But yeah, film is film. The ship has sailed. Deal with it now. Texture, not trivia. The outcome of fixing a change may yield much more gold than sticking with the original definition, or even assumption. Maman Picard, right? The assumption that he was just looking at the last time he saw his mother. No, he was looking at his image that he invented for the last time he saw his mother, which is wacky. Now what are you saying here, Nathaniel? As much as the suicide, well, we just went everywhere this week. Much of the suicide could be folded into the story of Picard's life. It's a pretty large bomb, not unlike revealing that Bashir was genetically engineered. Yeah, but Bashir was his own regular character, and Picard's mother was a one-time mention. She's on his bio screen in Conundrum. I mean, so what are you saying? To that end, you think the backstory explored in this current season really hasn't been explored with enough depth? Sure, some people will claim canon violations, but others of us will grumble because it wasn't done well. You mean the fact that his mother suffered from mental illness? I've seen a lot of people upset with his father. I've seen this pendulum do this. Throwing her in a dark room? That's medieval. But then some people saying it was late at night. They were in a country villa. Who knows where they had access to transporters. He was going to get her care. He knew she was in trouble. He did that to protect her until he could get something done in the light of day. I've seen that there, because you'd like to think, because Picard's dad was mean to, we've seen him personified in Q's White Cloud as a middle-aged man, almost Picard's age, if not a little older at the time. The whole thing's setting up family. That his dad sided with. Robert was the traditionalist, and Picard had to break away and get out. Even in the 24th century, even in the mid-24th century, that there was still that kind of provincialism versus getting away, or traditionalism versus getting away. Mainly because it's just great drama. It's easy things to peg character drama to. But we kind of see that. We see Deanna and her mother. We see Spock and Sarek. We see Riker and his dad. We see all kinds of family dynamics that aren't Gene's perfect humans, because families may be the most susceptible to conflict of all. So no, I don't put it on the equivalence of Bashir, but you can. Your mileage may vary. That's fine. It reflected back to Picard, but finding out that Picard had been carrying around an image of a glorified, sanctified image of his mother, sanitized to cover his pain, to me is a lot different than Bashir keeping the secret of his genetic manipulation secret to protect his own life and career, much less it's a secret. So anyway, but like you say, like Mike Okuda always said, your mileage may vary. In graphics. There you go. Stephen, I'll say the same thing. From Admiral to Commodore. Yes, exactly. To me, that's the same boat as in What Happened to Boyce, Where's Piper, When Did They Come Along, and most of all, how does M'Benga fit in his comeback later? Or was he there the whole time and just a staff doctor and not the CMO? Because he was not the CMO for Piper, much less McCoy. Or did he leave to go study in a Vulcan ward because of, I've talked about this, right? 2 weeks ago, I think. Did he leave to go study in a Vulcan ward because of something that happened on Enterprise under Pike with Spock? and then came back and was happy to be the Vulcan specialist. And I mean, do some mainstream doctoring too, but totally happy to let McCoy be the CMO because he'd had the burden of being the department chief for several years. It'll be interesting because Boyce looked close to retirement. And that's the other thing. I know if April was retiring at 75 and we're not blowing every aspect of Counterclock Incident out of the water, then 10 years before, 11 years, he should be 64, 65. And does Babs look like he's 64, 60? I'm sorry, we're crossing. Does Adrian look like he's 64, 65? Oh no. 75 is the new 55 or 45 even. Can't tell that. Remember, April was described as a very youthful 75, fit and vigorous 75, which was part of the story about why automatically retire him. Now, the fact that 100 years later, McCoy was a retired admiral able to keep his clout and his RHIP factor at 137 and still up and ambulatory, might have had some bionic additions by then, but was still up and able to have an unassisted tour of the Enterprise. A slow one maybe, but that says something about how Starfleet views its elder officers, especially its high-ranking officers. Well, Tobias, I had not, of all the angles I've thought about 50, 100 years from now, this is the one that, this is the one I haven't thought of. You alienist, you humans. See, that's the controversy I keep waiting for, is when in Star Trek, in some century, 23rd or 24th or beyond, when are all the other member races going to look at the humans and go, we're really tired of this Earth-centric, human-centric Federation. We need to diversify that out a bit. No more do you guys get to have the Council and the Federation headquarters and the Starfleet military headquarters all together. Nope. You have no problem with the human playing Spock. There you go. Well, Sophia, see, this is what probably half of fandom thinks, which surprised me. I'm sorry. It surprised me. Of course, I want April to be an interesting character, and I want the stories to be good. But I want on top of that, Star Trek to be as intact a universe as it can be without people not caring the way they do in so many other aspirational, future-centric. Oh, Jared, my God, you're coming to us from Bogota. Whoa. Well, I'm glad you could make it, man. I hope you're staying safe, doing all the things. Thanks for bopping in with us, though. That's amazing. Yeah. But again, Dave, I like to think that most of the reaction about the casting, Adrian Holmes' casting, was about heartsick for disrespecting TAS, not about having an amazing Black African-American or African-Canadian, I guess, to be technical, having a Black actor playing a role. Here you go. Soft canon. See, and that's why the whole debate about is it canon or not. So I guess that umbrella of its dramatized adventures of Kirk's time, Kirk's Enterprise, I think that might be the more canonical way to say soft canon. Cherry pick from material. Yeah. Can we have the Retlaw plant pop up? Can we have that? When the force field belts make an appearance, that's when we'll really know they've come home. Now here we go. See, we're going to get in these problematic areas when an Andorian is playing Spock. Yeah. Unless it was Shran. Playing favorites, are we? What's going on here? Oh. Why, look, it's Enterprise in space. Sean, if that's you, I hope you're doing well. good to see you. Good to see you. And hope you're doing well, my friend. What do we got here? Michael says Lower Decks and TAS and Picard and Discovery are all canon. If they don't make sense together, it's up to us to figure out why. Exactly. And some of us have been doing this since before there was only a TOS and a TAS. And the motion picture brought in all kinds of ripples. Yeah. Christoph, is the internet better in Bogota there? Yeah. Of course, now I'm loving your comments, everybody, but I'm actually looking for questions as well, he says an hour into this. John, are you trying to kill my teenhood? Of course they were made by different teams in different eras. That's not true. They did worry. Much angst was made. Much angst was made in the 60s. It's just that there is always something that's beyond your, just out of earshot. You're trying, and something slips through. But no, Star Trek's core is people trying to keep a consistency. Otherwise, explain to me Tribulations and all of those, Relics and In a Mirror Darkly. But here's the thing, knowing all that so that when you do want to break out, you do it knowingly. Like with Picard saying, I'm always going to keep my mother's image in my mind. Sorry, bud, we agree on most things, but that's what makes Star Trek special and different than anything else out there. We don't have, we might get there, but we don't have infinite worlds, all the 52 different, whatever it is, whatever DC did, craziness. So yeah, don't ruin my childhood, my teenhood, John. Well, now this is a thing, Paul. I hear you. Some of canon is embarrassing. Some contract. It's adhere close to canon that Peck should look identical to a young Nimoy. Well, until we come up with cloning, that's a fact of production. Now, don't you think he's in the same facial structure as Nimoy? Casting people are going to deal with casting, but some of this is a spectrum of human nature. Spock is Leonard Nimoy and Spock are such an iconic, not just an iconic character, but they're known worldwide, that vision. If you're going to go totally 90 degrees to something that not just a hardcore fan base, but that the world at large knows. Look at Zach Quinto. No one's going to cast a Spock that doesn't vaguely look like. Now, when we get into the realm of some of the groups I've known that have reverse gender cast and had female Kirks and Spocks and male Uhuras and Chapels, or drag it into another generation. That's all for a reason. That's all for a point. And that's part of a larger, broader theatrical movement to do that with all kinds of known Shakespeare or whatever classic play that's known for. If you want to shake things up for a reason, that's fine. That's also live theater. And that's also something that's already thought to be one-off productions that have millions and millions of iterations. So, even every person cast to play Spider-Man kind of is in the same body type, the same look. Now, then you've got, then you're going to say, well, look at what Ron Moore did when he recast some of the bits of Galactica. Well, I hate to say one season of Battlestar Galactica was a universal constant that people have grown up with. Not like Shakespeare and not like Star Trek even. So, I can see differentiations on this spectrum of what's going to happen here. But as I said before, canon is not a straitjacket. It's not concrete galoshes that's meant to sink you. It's guardrails. And whether you have a 2-lane highway or an 8-lane divided highway, you still need guardrails. You still need paving and lanes painted, but it is going to grow and you will adapt. But you do that so that you're not out driving in the pasture or you go off a cliff over here. You have guardrails and markings to keep you going, but those evolve over time. And I still enjoy that definition of canon. You got to know, you got to know where you are. So when you want to go somewhere new, you know how to get there and not wander around in the dark. No one could have, yes, exactly. But here's where, dare I do this, you might compare it to the U.S. Constitution. It's an old creaky document built in 1789, and a lot of people would say it should have been redone long ago. But supposedly the ability to keep making it work and reinterpreting and making additions, and the additions are not made willy-nilly, or the changes are not made willy-nilly. And yeah, there were some inherent wrongs in even the original sacred document as time has gone by and the things have evolved. I don't want to get on a thing. Sometimes I realize I'm comparing Star Trek to Shakespeare. I hope I'm not comparing the writer's guide and canon to the Constitution, but maybe you could see those in the same way. I don't know. Interesting discussion today, though, guys, gals, peeps. Rebound. Thank you. Yes, maybe found him on the rebound, did Chapel. Thank you. What are you saying here? I'm losing the trail of the conversation. Perceptive, because changing actors in long-running pop culture TV is pretty common. These are tropes. Yes, we talking about Samantha's husband. Darren. We're talking about Darren's. Yeah, you can go down the thing of the two on Roseanne, on all the way through. Star Trek didn't really get into that. Here's another thing, though. I saw some people saying, why, if you wanted that kind of situation and you wanted to have a black actor in the mix, I meant to mention this earlier, why not have Adrian portray Commodore Stone, who was a black character and was a senior to Kirk, a senior to a captain. Maybe he had just been a Commodore for a million years. You know, we're only 7 years before the events, 66 back to 59. We're only 7 years earlier than the events of Court Martial. And I think, once again, it was too tempting to have the superior officer be April and be the first captain and establish that way. And looking at the great hourage of Star Trek, and to have 10 or 15 minutes of depiction here and all of that time, I know, and 10 or 15 minutes of being ignored is sadness to a lot of people. But in the great swath of things, as the years go by and as the math of Star Trek keeps piling up, there we go. Spock is the OG player. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It totally gobsmacked me, Zahir. And I was like, oh, it just added so much more to the drama of Where No One, I thought. Okay, Glenn, glad to have you with us. Yay. Oh no, I'm out of sync? Hope not. I hope not. There will probably be something in episode 1 that will rile up the alt-right non-fans more than April. See, this is what I think, John. I don't think most of this came from, if people are really going to protest black actors, I don't think they would have focused on April. They could have, I don't know, gone and attacked Celia or Babs. Just, I think a lot of this was from aggrieved original series fans or canonistas who were taking it too close to heart. I know there's a faction that will glom onto anything to exploit a racial divide, but I really don't think it was most of them. This, however, we will see. We will see. And we'll have to deal with it if that happens. Alt-right anything. Yeah. Good to know that. But you mean technically, not philosophically, right, John? All right. What? You gonna want me to do a Spanish Inquisition impression? No one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Our main weapons are fear, and intimidation. Oh, start again. That's all you get. And sorry, I didn't have my red costume handy. Okay. Regarding Strange New Worlds Thursday, I swear to God, everybody, when I see S&W, I still think SNL. It's just going to take a while. It's the most obvious. No one's arguing over the 3-letter abbreviation code for this one, but I still think of SNL as an S. Because here's the thing. Look at this. Strange New Worlds. This is going to be irrelevant. There, because Strange New Worlds, 3 syllables. SNW, 5 syllables. Why say the acronym code when you could just say the title? And it'd be 2 syllables shorter. I think that's why. I don't know. Are you hearing people verbally say SNW, SNW, SNW? TNG was one thing. DS9 was one thing. No one expects the. I don't know, Carl. What universe do you live in? I'm here in Prime, and there's plenty of Trek Inquisitionating going on. You're waiting. I'm super excited. Especially, I had a conversation last week with somebody that I hopefully we can share at some point, who confirmed basically all of my gut feelings. And the gut feelings I had about 4 or 5 years ago, if that tells you anything. Maybe that'll be next week's topic. We'll see. Kelvin movies. This came up all the time on Live Sport Live and with Ollie. I don't hate the Kelvin movies. I just didn't have time for them. It's like, look, if you're not gonna be worthwhile, if you're not gonna add to everything, if I can't assimilate you, if you're not going to add to the distinctiveness of our collective here, it's like, what's the point? And content, like going to the mirror universe was always good for contrasting something. People love to talk about them being the contractual result of the split of the Viacom divorce, but they weren't that. It was the misguided thinking of the time. And I'm very glad for Bob and Alex to finesse their way into being an alternate universe and not just a reboot of Star Trek, because that would have negated everything that I've said today. And I would have put it in the same realm as it's a new Batman every 2 years. It's a new Spider-Man every 2 years. Yada yada. No, Commodore has been used. You mean do you mean in the timeline of Trek, or do you mean Commodore O was a Commodore in Picard's time, which should have been a Vulcan named O should have been the giveaway right there. But there was a Commodore there. It's a kind of a quasi-honorary funky title. And Forrest was a Commodore pre-Starfleet, Federation Starfleet, but Forrest was a Commodore during the NX missions. I said, I need to do it. I did a condensed Enterprise rewatch-ish in the last 2 weeks. Should talk about that sometime. Yeah. Oh, we have an Aaron Harvey fan. Yay. Okay. Exponents. Maybe I'll figure out what you are. The Bonaventure, the Guppy ship. Yeah, but you do know that when the first idea was that the Excelsior was going to replace the Enterprise as the movie ship, the flagship of the movies, Kirk and Spock ship, because the special effects guys, it was built in 1978 and the world had changed so much in 5 or 6 years. It was too heavy. It was overbuilt. They hated having to wrestle it for filming. And we're talking, pre-digital. So we're talking about filming with models. And the Excelsior was made much more compact and lightweight, and everything that had been learned in 6 years and they were going to have it be the design of the future. And fandom read an interview and read that and saw that, and 80s fandom rose up and said, "Don't you dare replace the Enterprise, or we hate that." The Excelsior was called the Pregnant Guppy back in the day. How many times is Troy and Data called by the wrong rank? You talking about calling them lieutenant instead of lieutenant commander? Happens all the time. We won't even talk about O'Brien and Paris and on down the line there. Yeah, the costume pip glitch thing. Oh, you were more concerned about the casting of the Kirk lookalike. You think he looks like... I thought about that too. I thought he looked a little Jim Carrey-like. When Kirk wasn't supposed to meet Pike until Pike was promoted to fleet captain. Well, we'll just have to see how that plays out, Glenn. Maybe we'll have a little bit of texture, not trivia there too. We'll see. We'll see. Look at everybody back and forth here. Now I'm losing track of the conversations, and should I be concerned with it? Everyone's getting along. So if you're having your own conversations back and forth, that's awesome. But yeah, I love reminding everybody how the Excelsior was hated by fans at first because it was perceived to be the replacement for Enterprise. And the Pregnant Guppy, instantly they backed off on that. I even asked Card Bennett about that at a convention when I was just a fan in the audience, and he backed off by then because of the backlash. And you know, I'm talking about the backlash by fans. We're talking about the tech fans writing in newsletters. So that audience in Kansas City or St. Louis, whichever one's St. Louis, that audience in St. Louis, I'm sure 90% of them had no idea about when tech heads and canonistas were 10% of fandom, and everybody else was all about the actors and characters. Or they were a lot of armchair canonistas. Fortunately, unlike P+, many Trekkies have gone way past VHS home video times. Okay. I'll let you make a plug there, William. I guess you already did. Yep. Choose your own adventure type adventures. Oh, Brian. Hi. By the way, is this your first time? No, you've been with us before, but yes, this. I'll take that. Yeah. However we can get it. Now, we got a business model now where you don't have to have 26 episode seasons, but I would love to have all of that. Finish Enterprise of the times. Yeah. Can we please have a canonized Romulan War and founding of the Federation? Can we please have that? And yes, this is true. I saw this morning. Fred Bronson, totally, who has been a guest on Portal 47, has been a guest on the Trek Files. I knew he would be tickled. Well, what you're gonna cast somebody that looks like Gene? that was canon in a vacuum. That was having fun canon in a vacuum. And the real thing finally happens, like Greg Jean's original version of the Phoenix, which gave way to what the movie needs had to be. So yeah. But Fred Bronson, even more so than Mike, that was a fun thing. Fred, created it. Look, everything was a white default in 73 and 74. And you went somewhere to have somebody be different. And how many blacks are even in the animated series? I'm not talking about Uhura. Yeah. I thought of that the other day. I wanted to do an analysis. Maybe Aaron's already done this, or somebody else that studied the animated series. I just wonder how many black characters of the humans there are in animated. Plus, Adrian Holmes was a great Lego Mace Windu, and I'm rooting for him to be awesome in this too. There you go. That's the part from This is the rare end of your comment here. So unfortunately, Restream cuts off the. You guys, when you write long comments, just remember, Restream will cut you off if I want to spotlight it. Animated 5th season Enterprise, yeah. There you go. There you go. I'm sure Doug would jump in and support that in a second, even after the last one kind of blew up. Yeah. Dum 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 dum. Pink Kazinti. Dum 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 dum. Yes, yes, yes. But they best have all the original actors voicing, including Shran. I don't know why not. I don't know why not. Hey, Carl, do I think the filming of the next Star Trek movie will start this year? You saw the comment. Who was it? Was it Zach said this? He didn't think it would film. I said this months ago. First, it popped up that our beloved Pike, Chris Pine, was directing a movie, filming it, and then you're the director, you're involved in post for 2 or 3 or 4 months, and they were shooting it late in summer, and he would be. I didn't know he was going to fit in playing Kirk unless they got all the non-Kirk bits filmed first. But I wondered how they would squeeze in. Plus, just the need of, it's been 2015. It's been 7 years since they had even a movie crew that comes together and goes away and then comes together. Unless they're pulling people off the TV crew, but the TV crews are scattered. Half of them are in Toronto. Where are they going to film this sucker? In LA? In Vancouver? Where have they got stuff stored? What era is it going to be? What's it going to be about? But most of all, yeah, that seems like a ridiculous collision between on his time schedule for Chris Pine. And that's why I wondered how they'd really even squeeze it in. Filming this year, does that mean we're going to start filming on December 30th? Anyway, I think reality is going to bear in, and they're not going to be able to turn out a movie in a year. They want to keep that December 23rd, 2023 date is whatever it is, December. That's not going to hold. They're not going to get a Star Trek, a huge complex Star Trek R&D'd and filmed and whatever in that time. That's my guess. That's my guess. I did not, John. I should. It must have been very fresh. When you say branch out beyond TV, do you mean film? Because he's already hired their wing had already hired a movie franchise script. So, William, that's very kind of you to say, but that's not going to. If anything, people are going to run away from anything that a fan film tried to portray, unless you had some really, really, really into it fanboys and fangirls who really just feel like throwing in an homage here and there. So we'll see. So I hate to say no, John. I was trying to keep up with everything before I jumped on, but that was up to an hour and a half ago. Me too, Rose. Me too. Picard ends on a positive note. Of course, Picard's got another season to go. It's a little bit like ending Next Generation when you know you're going to a movie. So we'll see here. There we go. Thank you, John, for putting the link up there. Boom. And I can't activate. Yep. Oh, thank you. I did mean to say this. There you go. June 22nd, Paramount Plus in the UK and Ireland. Although most of the people I know, that only makes it a little more convenient. But good for them. Somebody got on there because that was a topic of conversation, especially in New York, where you've got a lot of Brits coming over and Europeans coming over in the press corps. That was very much a topic of conversation at the New York opening last week. But good on the Brits and the Irish and the Welsh and the Scots for being able to see it legal on June 22nd, my wedding anniversary, and Operation Barbarossa when Hitler invaded Stalin. June 22nd, an even more momentous day. Yeah, Dave, you agree with me. Long COVID. We don't know what's going to pop up in 10 or 15 years. Yeah. Checking the source of your drink. I don't know, John. What does that mean? Good for you, Justin. 10 days post. Well, did you hear? Was there a mini outbreak from Planet Comic-Con, Justin? I'm just curious because I know in the Midwest there would have been a lot of people just totally not caring. Yeah, good point, Dave. Take those post-con victories where we get. It's hard enough to just escape con crud in general. Yes. Oh, it was. You got access to another over the last 30 days. So climbing, I wonder what you'll probably pop it in here. I didn't see that, John. The last 30 days in the US. Okay, there we go. Marta, how are things in the outback? Oh no, I'm so sorry, Marta. But I hope you're mending. I hope you're mending well. Oh, my goodness. And well, Diane, it's about damn time. glad I can have you on there. What? It's on the hard drive, so it's canon now. I've lost track of what we're talking about, but there we go. Surprised so many people at the premiere flew in. Well, John, there's been nothing live to go to, and the few live things have been in LA. So, I mean, we had the Star Trek Day in LA, and that's been about it. So, yeah, a lot of hungry people, which I knew. But I never thought about going out because it's been kind of wacky crazy. Dan, good to see you, sir. Let's see what's going on. Yes. Dan, I'm starting a Cybok is Still Alive campaign for 2401. You were waiting so long for the. Was it you? Somebody told me this like a month or two ago. Yeah, there you go. And teaming up with Vader. I wasn't crossing the streams. I was doing a comparison. I didn't put them in there. Yeah, they're gonna go find V'ger and take over the Academy of Super Beings. Mm-hmm. TS isn't canon. It's some alternate reality kid show at another timeline. Well, yeah, exactly. And there you have it. It's canon in a vacuum. It's canon in a vacuum. Okay. Oh, Dan, why don't you just vague post us? What do we got now going? Maybe they'll be stopped by an infestation of tribbles. Okay. Cygod. There you go, everybody. Cygod. Feel their pain, and then they'll be on his side, and then it's off to Kronos. Sharing a little bit of that Cygod virus. Yeah. Yes. Narda, you just take it easy. Slow and steady. We'll win the race. Yeah. So the Organians weren't needed in bringing peace to the Klingon Empire after all. Well, this is kind of what I was starting to say, Narda. Yeah, this is what my title is about. It's not about race. It was about retcon. Knowing full well that for maybe 3% of those bashing out, it was racist. But the vast, vast, vast majority were back into the. Yeah. And of course, a white actor never played it to begin with. It was animation. And now I'm into a realm of I'm an animationist and I don't respect anime or something. It's. Oh, why, Diana? Are you saying that Star Trek is political? Mm-hmm. Who needs photon torpedoes? Just threaten them with an arsenal of tribbles. I'm gonna beam my whole hold over. Yeah. Oh, well, there's others out there too, but it's just, I didn't look for this. It's how Star Trek found me. I didn't ask for this life. I was happy to do encyclopedia until they made me do a making of book. So, gun to my head, phaser to my temple. Yeah, Strange New Worlds is starting. It's supposed to start in 2259, and then however it ends, Where No Man is supposed to be in 2265. So they've got 6 years to play with, and we don't know when Pike was a fleet captain. He was a fleet captain when he was with the cadets, and that was his rank at the time of the whole wheelchair time, right, in 2266. And Alan Hoenzi kind of echoing in here about the coming to the UK and South Korea also. Okay, there we go. Oh, my friend, the professor in South Korea is going to be happy about that. It will be bundled with Sky, but a standalone app like Netflix. See, they're racing the tech. They're racing the tech. What are you talking about here, John? 3 white males as our commanders appearing in a new Trek show. Are you talking about April, Pike, Kirk? Because yeah, that's the 1964-66 white default of TV, which was a thing then, and then yeah, and you're not going to mess with Kirk and Pike at this time, so April would be the one. Yeah. Dan, good point, Dan. Discontinuity we're talking about right now harks back to emotional Spock. We call him Shouty Spock, Dan. Shouty Spock and James R. Kirk. Well, were they controversial at the time TS aired or not till later? Well, when TOS aired, people were just soaking up the shows. It wasn't until fandom had nothing else new and had time to go. I mean, the early 70s and, the time when the 3rd season was disowned by a chunk of Spock fandom, they bastardized the character. He'd never talk about sex that way with strangers. So they weren't ever controversial. I remember there would be like the eye-rolling fandom who would just see James R. Kirk or see Shouty Spock and go, oh, early TV, early Star Trek. Oh, we have to put up with this because it's a... But, by having Shouty Spock and the cage footage in the menagerie and saying that it was 13 years earlier, having that, you make Spock younger and you explain not just his shoutiness, but the bangs and the roughness of his hair and all of that and the costume changes. They were retconning themselves. So don't tell me that no one ever cared about continuity. They found out a time that made sense and a time to space that back. So emotional Spock has always been younger Spock. The short treks was almost like on the nose with what fandom had always done with it, which was he was young and finding his way. And it's 14 years between the cage and Where No Man. And Where No Man is still even a little, I mean, the hard part's the year between Where No Man and actually the hard part is looking at the opening episodes of season 1 and then seeing where he got to by the end of that year. And you just have to chalk it up to the events. Maybe Naked Time. You have to chalk it up to something in there because, the alternate captain had some interesting characteristics, wouldn't you say, Yeoman? What? And him, Uhura singing to him and spinning around with that sly smile on his face. Way too radical for Spock at any other time to be smiling. So that's that. But the James R. Kirk years ago, I just said, I don't know, in the 90s, said, you know what? That was your clue that Gary Mitchell was not quite as omniscient as that he thought he was. He slipped up and got his best friend's initial wrong. And maybe that sounds hokey and ridiculous, but it happened. I saw it right there on the film of the dramatized public mass consumption versions. But no, yeah. So the people that cared about that have had a solution for James R. Kirk since the 90s. To me, it just showed that Gary Mitchell was inevitably not infallible, at least yet. And I'd like to think it was Kirk's it was Kirk's final clue that it was still a fight worth winning, still winnable. Yeah. There you go. And yes, it came from the mainstream trades because the mainstream trades didn't think of that point as a big canon spoiler. Exactly. The multiverse Star Trek style. Well, we got Prime, we got the Mirror Universe, and we've now got the Kelvin verse. But we've got all of those verses from parallels that Worf saw. We've got the Borg 1 universe. Yeah. It's stability, not a straitjacket. And it makes you, when you want to depart from established canon, it makes you realize how you need to do that to have it all still tie in. And your new points are now canon that fits in. Fits like a glove. Fits like a glove. Not that glove, most gloves. Your headcanon is it's just a tombstone and not a real one at that. Oh, well, I like mine better than yours, Brian. April has been established for the modern era in Discovery, whereas Stone hasn't. If it's Prime, Stone is out there. People don't have to pop up in a modern show that they didn't exist. But anyway. What are you saying, Brian? You're waiting for the people who will say that Chapel's hair doesn't match the color of her eyebrows. Well, did we see Chapel in 2259? No. We're seeing her now. Hair is still a fashion point. Come on. We've got the redhead Orions and the one who keep it a natural green. Oh, Dan, I'm going to skip right over that one. Jason, what are you saying? Why do you suppose there weren't more merchandising when it was in fact intended for Saturday morning kids market? I think there was. It's just all drifted away by now. And I think they were just gearing up to sell stuff from the Trek bubble exploded beyond what, a normal Saturday morning show would have coloring books, right? I mean, what are they going to sell to kids? Are they going to sell Whitman novels-ish? No, not really. What was sold for Scooby-Doo? And it had been a hit for 4 or 5 years. Comic books, maybe? I'm thinking coloring books and punch-out books. Connect the dots. I mean, that's what else are you going to do? So Star Trek's, the original series was about to blow up and create a whole new paradigm that hadn't existed. So I think that was going to dwarf the animated series. That's my memory in 2 cents. Yeah. You just say SNW snoo. Glenn, you may have something there. And when someone asks me, why did I not see this coming? When someone asks you what snoo is, I say it's the alternate universe past tense of snow. Okay. I was really with you there on the snoo, how to pronounce the acronym. Paramount didn't understand merch then. Brian, nobody understood merch then. Maybe Disney, but nobody in mainstream entertainment. Something had to cross a red line huge, and like the Monkees or something, or the Man from U.N.C.L.E., James Bond. You got huge that way, and then you could sell spy kits and wigs and whatever. Notebook covers to kids. But yes, the idea of merchandising and licensing, thank you, Star Wars, for blowing that up and showing the possible. You're in a library. Get out of there now. Being a huge Marvel fan, I didn't know you were a huge Marvel fan, Di. Being a huge Marvel fan, I have no issues with multiverse and stuff. Well, they exist. Can't stop them. Inventions, and they fly the ocean. Sorry, that was Grandpa Vanderhoff line. You do think the Kelvin movies did add something, Dan, at least style-wise, history-wise, sociological-wise, even if not in universe. Well, Yes, they added a whole new audience. They had respect in the media and mainstream circles. Yeah. I don't see, everybody talks about the style and the cinematography and the visual effects as being Kelvin and J.J. Abrams. It's just the way of the world. I think there are different creative styles that the roads could have gone down specifically. But Star Trek and its visual effects and design wasn't going to look like 2005. I mean, that's where it's the year of audiences. And we've already been there. A ship can be a ship, but the way you frame it, light it, edit it, and then film it. Are you using Polaroids? Are you using digital? Are you using high contrast, low contrast? I mean, the way you do it is we have costumers and cosplayers and cosplay custom makers who now will offer you, do you want the blue the way it was the material, or do you want the blue the way it looked under the Voyager and DS9 lights for your teal off? Do you want your gold to be green, gold, olive the way it was built? Or do you want the gold the way your eye perceived it? Do you want to paint your Enterprise the way it looked under shooting lights, or do you want the actual model's colors? It's kind of like, do you want the original series, or do you want the the remastered version? It's fine. It's nice to have it both ways. So yeah. Yep. I'm still so overdue to talk to him. What are we saying here, Michael? You didn't ask, but your favorite explanation of the R is Peter David's Q squared novel is taking place in a nearby parallel reality where Kirk's middle initial is R. And what? So Gary Mitchell is bleeding over to this parallel reality? See, there was a fan faction. One of Jeff Mandel's books had Pike's middle initial is R. Is it R? Christopher Robin Pike. I know. Well, this is part of it. Gary wasn't as close of a friend of Kirk's as he thought. Well, I don't think it made Kirk mad. I just think it was a clue to Kirk that Gary wasn't all so godlike as he thought. Was he in more than one episode? Was he recurring? Because that's cool. Okay, there's one. Okay, Text Trekkie, there's one, Stephen. Oh. Well, JJ always had games for the Kelvin. They always thought a game had to follow every show, which, I mean, that's kind of every movie. So, okay. And dramatic podcasts. Like, what's her name? Big Voice. What is it in the UK that does Doctor Who? That's good. Well, they've done the dramatic book already with Raffi and Seven. So, with Michelle and Jerry. So, yeah. Has it been confirmed that she's the only one out of it? Wondering how that complex cast was going to fit in once everybody else was in, what that actually looks like on the page, on the screen. Let's see. I hadn't remembered it was Tim's birthday, but happy birthday early to you. So there's a present. Let's say, dad duties keep trumping me. Sorry about that. No worries at all. You attend to your dad duties, Di. No, in fact, there's just been a report out that they're growing, even with NBC and the merger that brought behind Discovery Plus. They got to combine numbers, and Paramount Plus is growing. Well, of course, they yanked back Star Trek. So anybody taking Netflix just for Star Trek, they might be pissed. But a lot of people are leaving Netflix for that and other reasons too. All those original shows going to their original things. Yeah, there's numbers behind that. I mean, Parrot Analytics has been studying this too and just put out a report today. I didn't have time to integrate it today. I'll do it next week. But Paramount Plus is going to be very happy with what's coming down the pike. How hard would it be to tie the motion picture Machine Planet to the Picard Season 1 Machine Planet to the op creationist of the board? Well, you know, there was a quasi-joke, half-serious thing after the Borg premiered in Q Who, and Gene, or maybe Richard, but it was enough for Mike and Denise to quote it as a joking aside in the original encyclopedia that Gene wondered if the V'ger planet, Machine Planet, has something to do with the Borg. It's never tied down, so hey, it wouldn't be hard to do anything. Well, we'd have to go back and check every little canon timeline connection. If somehow the original V'ger programming corruption, except the Borg go way back in history before the launching of, well, the planet could have been okay. Sorry guys, I'm thinking out loud on live streaming here. It's doable. Let's get in and check the points and see what happens. See how much finagling we'd have to do. I would say, Dan, that he was voiced. He was voiced by a white actor, not played. I think played has to be live action, and voiced is what happens in animation. Hey, Lawrence, what are you saying? Cybok is living in the RV out on the forge where all of Sarek's other kids live. See? Out on the forge. Everybody was so down on Raffi living in that trailer home. It was the nicest damn trailer home I ever saw. Biggest, too. Artist in your back pocket. Okay, Dan, but that's not canon. That's my head canon. So I confirmed your opinion of my head canon. Okay, just so we're I'm not speaking for the corporation here, but I just thought that was the simplest, easiest version. Christoph, oh my God, go to bed. We're really running long today. Oh my God. 2 hours, everybody. 2 hours where I am right now. I'm almost caught up. Let's see. Yeah. The Mego characters, but they were places that came along with the first. Yeah. Well, that was when it took a while. It wasn't just TS was a symptom of burgeoning original series, right? It was the blueprints. The tech manual was what, 74? Anyway, let's see how we're doing here. Cybok is living. I can do this. Okay. That's funny. Hey, Glenn. Lieutenant Boma from Galileo 7 was supposed to be a recurring character, but Don Marshall was in so much demand that his schedule just didn't allow it. I had not heard that, but I could probably go back and dig it. Was that another Mark Cushman special? I don't know. I think you mean the Viewmaster. Yep. James R. Kirk was a prank? I don't think so. Yeah. Sounds like a TAS explanation. Well, Kirk is a jerk was right. Hey, everybody. I think we are at the end of the chat, and I think at 2 hours, that's a good time to call it here. So just a quick shout out and thank you once again to all of our TTLers. If you want to help me out here a little bit, don't forget you can go over to patreon.com/TreklandLive and help out on a very simple $5, $10 level. I really do appreciate it. We are gradually growing here. We're going to keep growing things along. Also, a quick reminder that, hey, the Trek Files is up for Tuesday viewing. A fun one. I really want everybody to read our document of the week, our letter, and realize who it's to, because it's not to Gene or anyone on the show or even movie staff, technically the movie staff, but it's to a studio executive And she's talking about the anxieties of fandom as some new thing comes down the line. The first new, well, not counting the originals, the animated series, but the first dramatically new attempt at Star Trek being something new, reinventing itself, but being the same to a wide new audience. It's come up, it's reinvention, it's resurrection. And she's a little antsy, but also very plain spoken and very strategic and very diplomatic as well. You want to see it because I think it speaks to our times right now so much. Check it out in the Trek Files, podcast.roddenberry.com, or on our Facebook where you can get the actual photos, okay? And beyond that, gang, a quick reminder, if you're headed to Trek Vegas, check out geeknationtours.com for the one-day Valley of Fire, the Kirk Memorial Tour on Con Eve Day, Wednesday, August 24th. You'll be back in plenty of time. It will be gone 6-7 hours, but you'll be back in plenty of time to recoup and be there for Con Eve party, the landing party. And especially, I'm halfway there. I need 6 folks to be the minimum so that this can make the Great Birds Origins Tour in August, the end of Gene's Centennial Tour. I had to hold off a year, but we're going to do it. I've got 3 of the 6 I need, so check that out if you would. Go to my page, LarryNemechek.com. I forget the / so I'll tell you later, but if you go up to the very upper left corner, there's a link on the home page to get you over to the page. I'm still tweaking it for the fun stuff, but the guts of it are there. And of course, if you're doing the cruise next year out of LA, I'm working on a group tour, and then also I'll be available for Trekland Treks then or any other time. We are reopening with a vengeance. I'm trying to take care. I'm trying to do all the right things. I hope you are too, because I want to enjoy this reopening, but do it in a smart, safe way. So please stay well, do all the things. And yes, stay woke, check the sources. And if it's somebody reliable and doable, and if it counters something you knew before, maybe you should take a listen to it. If it's somebody that's a ghost, probably don't pay so much attention. And trek well, everybody.